Here they come.
I brought something today.
You brought something today. Oh, isn't that
I brought it
nice?
last night. My grandpa got to give her to me on that Christmas.
That's great. Well, that's really nice that you have that with us today. Great. Now, this story takes lots of room this morning, so that's great, Sarah. On the step is great because this is going to take the whole space here this morning. It's not a long story, but it has a lot of people in it. That's okay. That's perfectly fine. So, do you? So this starts where in the desert, in the land where Jesus was born and lived and taught people about God. And those that were here last week, oh, that's great. We've got it spread out really big. Those that were here last week may remember that we told the story of Jesus being baptized and everybody got wet. Remember that? All of the little characters went down in the water and came up very wet. And so that's where this story begins, is that river. Remember the name of that river? Starts with a J. The Jordan River, yeah. And so after Jesus was baptized, he was so filled with the Spirit of God, so filled with love, that he knew he had to go and tell people about that and help people to find this feeling of God that he had found. So here he was walking along the Jordan River, and he came to a sea. He came to a beautiful sea with a little island in it, yes. And along this sea, there was a town called Capernaum. Actually, I better put this back here. And that is where Jesus started telling people about God. But before he went into the town, he was down by the seashore, and there were a couple of people there called Simon and Andrew that were fishermen, and they were fixing their nets. They weren't out in the boat, they were fixing their nets. And a little bit further along the shoreline, there were two more named James and John. They were brothers. And Jesus, according to the story, went up to them and said, I want you to just forget this work and come and follow me, because I need help to tell people about God. And I think that you could do that for me, that work. And you know, without a second thought, they just dropped everything and they followed Jesus. And so all of them went into Capernaum, into the town. Thank you. So then what Jesus was saying, well, I wonder where I should begin to tell people. And he thought, well, probably the best place to start would be in the synagogue or the church. In those days, in that place, they called it a synagogue. And some churches are still called synagogues today. But he thought they would already know something about God there, so that might be a good place to start. And there was a priest there, or like a minister, somebody sort of like me, that would help people to pray and sing and do those things. And there were lots of people in the church. people that are tired. There we go. And I'm going to pull this back a bit because we need the tide to be out so that there's room for everyone to get in. So, this is happening at the synagogue, and Jesus came in, and of course so did Andrew and Simon and James and John. They all came in, and Jesus started talking to the people. And the people got really excited about what Jesus was saying. And you could hear a pin drop. They loved what he was saying so much about God and how it could change their lives that you could just hear a pin drop. It was absolutely quiet. And all of a sudden, there was this man that was in the synagogue, and he came running at Jesus with his arms up in the air, and he was yelling and screaming at him. And he was saying, "Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are coming into our church and telling us how to do things? You should just go away and leave us alone." And he was yelling, and people were getting really worried about what was going to happen. But Jesus wasn't afraid. He just walked right up to this very, very angry person. And he kind of put his hands out a bit and he said, "Be silent. Be silent." And all of a sudden, this anger seemed to come out of this person and fly around the synagogue and then out the window, and it was gone. And the man was completely changed. Well, now the people were even more amazed. The problem was, the priest was angry because he didn't like the fact that Jesus was able to do something that he couldn't do. So, after the service was over, Jesus left with the friends that he'd made, and he went to the house of Simon, this one right here. And in Simon's house, Simon's mother-in-law, Simon was married, and so his wife's mother, his mother-in-law, was there, but she was really sick in bed. And so when Jesus saw her, he went over and he touched her hand and he lifted her up. And almost immediately she felt really good. Whatever her sickness was just seemed to float away, just like the angry thoughts had disappeared from the man. And she immediately, according to the story, started to make them a meal, something she hadn't done for her family for a long time. Well, what happened is people heard about these things that happened. This man that was changed and this woman that was healed, and hundreds and hundreds of people came and ended up looking through the windows of Simon's house, trying to get a view of this amazing man who had done these things and told people about God. I wonder, so let's just leave the people. Well, if we... Okay. So I wonder how it would feel to have someone be really angry and yell at you. I wonder how that would feel. Bad? Maybe feel sorry for him? Yeah. I wonder how the man felt when he wasn't angry anymore. joyful, happy, full of the Spirit. Yeah. I wonder how it would feel to see someone who is really, really sick in bed. Sad. It's hard, isn't it? Yeah. And I wonder how the woman felt when she wasn't sick anymore. Happy, joyful, full of the Spirit. Yeah. Well, that's our story. And we're going to sing a really neat song called Jesus' Hands Were Kind Hands, which kind of ties in with the story that we just heard. So let's sing that, and then you can head off to Children's Church.